Hello, everyone. Before we get started, I want to introduce to you my favorite poker organization, Poker Power. And we have a little intro video for you. So let me go ahead and pause my music so that we can show it, just for those of you who don't know what it's all about. So, good. I still have that visible. Let's play you this cool intro.
What if women had a seat at every table? A seat in every classroom, every interview room, every boardroom. What if women sat at every table and played a game? A game that made them strategic, decisive, resilient, analytical, influential, unapologetic, and confident. What if this game was a game changer to change the stats? To change our stories? To change the future? This game is played at a table. Flip the table. Raise the stakes. Play to win. We saved you a seat. That game is poker. And the players? They're fearless. Poker Power. Join us.
Awesome. All right, let me quickly get things set up for the next segment. Hello, Gary. Good to see you. Yeah, I'm going to set up to play a game. And for those of you who have played with Poker Power before, you know that at Poker Power we teach tournament style play. And I'm going to be playing a special kind of tournament today that is very, very fast. And it starts out with only 3 players. And then one of them wins. So that way I'll be able to show you, I'll probably be able to play through 3 or 4 games today, depending on how they go. Maybe even more. So I'm going to set up so that you can see them. And as I play, I encourage you to ask questions if you want to know how this game is playing. I'm going to be talking through my play in a very basic way because this stream is for beginners. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate the good luck. And I will be sort of talking through those actions in a very beginner sort of way. So if you know a lot about poker, this will be quite a review for you. And if you don't know anything about poker, this stream is for you. And I will get it going so that you can learn the different ways to play in a tournament, especially as your stacks get smaller because you play different cards at that point. So I'm going to spin one up now, and then hopefully my display will work out. Yay, it is showing up. All right, coolio. So there's a game. And what we're going to do here is we've got small blind. Hey, Jimbo. And the small blind is not a really fun place to play because you know you're going to be out of position, which means you're going to be first to act going forward. So you have to have an even better hand in the small blind than usual. But since we're deep stacked here at 24.5 big blinds, I'm going to limp in, which is something that you don't normally do in a bigger tournament, but it's something that can be done in this particular scenario. Now we're looking at this flop, and I see a king high, which is really good because I can hopefully represent that I have a king because I did enter this hand. So I'll just go ahead and bet, and there we go. Goodbye, friend. This hand, though it's connected, it's not going to be really good from this position at this time. You have to be more careful about the hands that you play from the button because that's the one place with 3 people here where you actually put in money to play. So if your hand isn't very good, you can just go ahead and not play it and save yourself a little change. This one, again, we don't want to really play in this position because we're in the big blind, and they min raise, which means they probably have a hand they like because they chose to raise it instead of limp. We shouldn't really be limping ever from the button, but a lot of people do, which is good because that means more chips for us. I'm going to limp this hand in again too. Hey, thanks for the follow, Poker Cindy. And hey, we've got top pair on this flop. I'm going to bet the same amount that I did when I didn't have anything. And this guy has no idea whether I have something or not. Now my top pair is now second pair. That's still worth a bet. Hey, yeah, this happens to be Poker Stars. Even in the States, you can play Poker Stars for free in many of the states. I'm going to bet half pot here because I'm thin value betting. And I got to fold. This hand's really good. In fact, in spins, this is so good that I could just totally go all in here if I wanted, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna min raise. Hey, Gary in the UK. Hey, thanks for the good luck, Cindy. Oh, but they came back at me, so I'm gonna be like, fine, let's go. Let's go, bro. Let's go. Oh, they had queens. Very unfortunate for me in this case. It's okay, I can spin up another game. Anyway, now we're super short stacked, so that means we're ready to just jam or, you know, all in just about any hand. In this case, a lot of people will look to what they call push-fold charts. So this one I wouldn't shove until I was about 2.5 big blinds. So I'll go ahead and fold. I want to at least die a dignified death here. Again, remember the button's the one place where we don't have to put in money to play. So I can go ahead and fold. Hey, Pot Plucker, what up, what up? Thank you, a subscription. Hey, this is a good hand to have to jam. And here we go. This time I technically have a better hand. If you see these percentages, that shows the equity in the hand that I have. Yay. And so when I have equity that's higher than the other person, I'm more likely to win. Anything can happen though, remember. So it doesn't necessarily guarantee a win. Oh yeah, let me go ahead and start my music again. That'd be nice. Again, something I don't want to play from the button because I don't have to put in extra money if I don't want to. All right. Here we are, blind versus blind. They folded, so I get a walk, right? Because if you're on the big blind, sometimes that gets to happen for you. Again, I'm pretty low here. I have just over 6 big blinds left. So it's still a time for me to shove, especially when there's only one player against me here. Again, not a good hand for me to put any money in the pot. I'll wait and see. You have more odds when you already had to put a forced blind in. Because remember, this is a tiny tournament with just 3 people. So there's only one position where you don't have to pay. You just fold. I'm in the small blind, which, again, is a rough place to be. I'm going to fold this hand because not only is it terrible, but I would want a better hand from the small blind than basically any other position because I'd have to be not acting last for the rest of the entire hand. Okay, here we go. Still not good enough for me to bet here. I'm hanging on by a thread, but you never give up. Never give up. All you need is a chip and a chair to win, they say. Right, Jimbo? You know this one. All you need is a chip and a chair is actually from a cool poker story. And now I'm trying to remember which famous poker player this was. Maybe Jimbo knows. Maybe somebody knows. But it was about a famous poker player who thought that he busted out of a tournament. But he looked under his cup at the table, his drink, and he saw a chip under there, and it was like worth $500. This is a paired board, so it's a great one to stab a bluff. So I'm just going to do that. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Now I have this draw, though. And so since I have very little left, I'm just going to bluff the rest. See? It worked out. He was like, nope, no thank you. Yeah, I love the chip in a chair. Isn't that great? It's really good for life too, you know? Like, I think people give up on life things too quickly. And I think what poker teaches you is never to give up, right? Because remember, I was down to like 2 big blinds. Now I have almost 8. Okay, they limped in. This is a fish. This is a bad player because they should not be limping from the button. I'm just going to check because I don't have to put any more in. And this comes down. I am not going to stab this one from out of position. I'm going to check and see what they do. And since I don't have anything, it's totally a fold time. Hey, thanks for using my Sharkies pot plucker. My friend, the Violet Mystery here on Twitch, made those for me. She's an amazing, amazing artist. Look, look, we have another fish. We need like a fish alarm whenever that happens. Everybody watch for the fishies. Now this one, I'm not going to play because I'm really short stacked. If I was a little deeper stack, had a little more wiggle room, I might go ahead and play that. Oh, they had aces. Aren't I glad I didn't, right? But you can't be too results oriented. This is a pair, even though it's a low pair. Remember that any pair is basically like a coin flip against even pretty good hands like ace king. So that's a pretty good hand, but cross your fingers. Oh, the river got me. It's okay. I'll spin up another one. Let's see if this will actually appear. Thank you. Yeah, she does a good home game, the Violet Mystery. She's really cool. I'm going to actually shout her out here because she's a great poker player. Oh, let me finish typing that. I'm going to min raise this because it's a pretty sweet hand and we're just against one player. And we come down with a low flop, 3, 4, 5. And it's actually more likely that the big blind is going to have low cards because they just had to call one more chip. So I'm actually not going to bet this. I'm going to check and see what happens. He decides to bet 2, which is half pot. And that's bigger than just one big blind, which I might want to call this with. But with 2, I think I'm going to go ahead and fold it. No, thank you. We'll find a better opportunity. Again, terrible hand, terrible position to play it in. Forget that. Look, that person raised to 3 from the small blind. And that's something that we do like in larger games, in tournaments, often raised from the small blind. Also in cash games. I'm going to call this because I do have suited cards. And we are what's considered deep in a spin and go. King, queen. We're missing the jack, 10, 9, 8. See, we'd have to have 2 more cards, which is called a runner to make that straight. It's not worth really chasing it down, man. I'm going to go ahead and fold. But I do notice that this person c-bet, continuation bet after the flop, 2 big blinds again. So that's something to notice about your opponents, is how much they bet, because that'll teach you whether they're excited about their hand or not so excited, or whether they just tend to bet half pot every single flop just because that's all they know how to do. Hey, look at what it is. 4, 5, 6, 7. That means I have a double ender straight draw, which is totally worth betting at least once. And I'm actually going to bet it twice. This is called double barreling. I'm going to bet bigger here because I kind of want my opponent to fold. And also we got a scare card, which is an ace. Makes it more likely that he will. And he did. Goodbye, friendo. And now we're going to fold this because it's offsuit and it's, you know, the queen is so far away from the 3. Can't make any straights tall. Unless the flop had a queen in it and nobody else had one, I'd be pretty out of luck. Okay, now it's also good when you're not in the hand to watch what the other players do, because you can kind of tell how they're going to play. This person is barreling pretty big. This person's just calling along. So what do you think they have? What do you think? A king just came on the end and this guy's all in. Do you think he had that king on the flop? Do you think that's what he would be betting with? Or did he have a jack on the flop? This person's had to fold. They might have been calling along with a flush draw or something. All right, here we go. Another terrible hand in the small blind. Let's give him a walk. He can have that half a blind. It's no big deal to me. Queen 3, if I had a bigger stack, like bigger than a spin and go game would ever have, like if this was a cash game, I would play this from the button, but it's not, so I won't. And here we go in the big blind with ace 9. Oh, we got a walk. Sometimes even when you have a decent hand, you still get walked, and it's cool. Okay, this person min raised, so they're not as huge a fish, or maybe they just really super love their hand. I am going to fold because we're too low to be calling along with any of that stuff. And mostly from the small blind, if you're in a bigger tournament, you're going to want to raise or fold. In spin and goes, it's a little different, so sometimes you can actually call from the small blind, but that's not a thing that happens in most games until you get maybe really short. This one is a 4-2 offsuit. Heads up now, so we're 1-on-1. That means I'm going to play pretty much 100% of my range when I'm heads up small blind until I get down to like, I'm going to say 13 big blinds. A high card fell, which is something that I could have on the button, so I'm going to stab. Heads up is a different animal, though. There's lots of limping in heads up that you don't see when you're playing more people. And that's because when you're heads up, it's more likely the other person has absolutely nothing. So I have a double ender now, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4. So I'm going to go ahead and barrel. I know, I love heads up play. Heads up play is just super fun. And it's fun, ladies out there watching from Poker Power. You know what's cool is invite your best friend over, get a bottle of wine or maybe some non-alcoholic beverage of your choice, and play heads up. It is super fun. Okay, I'm going to call along because I can just, or rather check along because I don't have to put any more money. And this kind of is lame. We'll check and see what he does. This guy's not as bad as the last guy was, so he'll probably c-bet here because that's what he should do probably most of the time. And I'm going to fold because I'm not into it. Is that called a bluff? Yeah, actually, sometimes people call it a semi-bluff when you have a draw, but it's not like actually a made hand yet, but it could get better than the made hands that you see on the board. So yeah, it's still a bluff, but it's a semi-bluff. This is what's called a monotone flop because it's all the same. Why non-alcohol? Just for those who choose it, you know. I don't want to pretend like only cool kids drink alcohol because cool kids can drink non-alcoholic drinks too. Oh, you're bad at bluffing? You know, when I first started poker a couple of years ago, my sweetheart was like, you're going to be terrible at this. See, look, he raised, and technically I do have that draw, but it's not a good idea for me to call because I'm probably already beat here because even if my draw completes, the flush could kill me, so I'm going to let it go. Anyway, Gary, I was told that I would be terrible at bluffing because I'm really bad at lying in real life, like super bad. But it turns out that bluffing in poker doesn't feel like lying. Instead it's more just like a logical piece of the puzzle. We'll show you a logical spot for bluffing, I'm sure. And it's just, it doesn't feel like you're just like, pulling one over. It's more like, there's nothing I can really do here to get money except bluff, so I'm going to choose to do it. Drink can make for better poker. Hey, it makes for better poker when you're playing against drunk people, I'll tell you that. If you stay sober and everyone else at the table is drunk, good times, good times. All right, this person's starting to shove when I'm down lower. I love his Mr. Bean, like, user picture. It's very cute. Love Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson. All right, we got top pair, but look, it's another mono flop. I'm considering leading out here, but I think I'll check and see what this guy does. And now I'm going to raise him because I don't want another spade to hit the board. But I might have to call him off if he shoves. Yep, no, he decided to fold. All right, now we're down so low at this point that we're going to want to shove all the offsuit aces, basically. But the suited ones are still more... Oh, look, he had kings. But look, what if another diamond... Oh, the other diamond didn't save me. You notice I lost 2 games here, but I'm not worried because this is just how it goes. You know, you can't win them all. And if you play enough of them, then it all balances out in the end. It's no big deal. Just have to watch your bankroll if you're playing, you know, even when you've got play chips, you still want to pay attention to what play chips you have. You don't want to buy into like the biggest game that you possibly can buy with your play chips. Otherwise, you'll be out of play chips. This is a hand where I could also shove from the small blind, and actually it's kind of a good idea because remember the small blind sucks to play. So even though I might not always do that first hand in the game, it's not a bad idea. This one I'm going to fold on the button. However, if this was like a bigger game, meaning like more people, I might consider playing that. Depends on what the players are in the game. Ooh, this person shoved all in. I would have easily called this with just 2, but I'm not going to call an all in with King Jack because they could easily have a pair or an ace that could destroy me. Oh man, but he went all in with a suited connector. That's not a good idea, folks. Don't do that unless you're really, really short stacked. All right, now we're heads up again. My favorite place to be. I'm gonna just limp this. It's often good to limp the first few hands that you're playing heads up with. Makes the people frustrated because they don't know what you have. He ISO'd or raised to 3, which is what we like to do. We raise 3x until we get short or stacked. This one I have the choice. I could either shove it or min raise. I'm going to choose to min raise. And we have second pair on the flop. And we've got an overcard as well. So we'll wait and we'll see what he does. Ooh, he bets pretty big, half pot. I'm going to choose to call 1 street, but I'm paying attention to his huge bet. Now I've picked up the flush draw. So my odds for this flush draw are about 18% because we're on the turn here, right? It's 33% on the flop, but my odds went down because there's only 1 left to go. So I would have to call 12 in to get, 24, and that's not going to be right. He kind of ruined my odds to call, so I have to say goodbye to that hand. Light call. Should be able to get good action when you get the goods, hopefully. See, he's raising to 3 now, so you have kind of a judgment call. I'm going to call because I already have 1 big blind in, which gives me better odds. And I do flop this, which is nice. I'm going to check because I did not have what I call the aggression stick. Ooh, he bets big again, half pot. This time I have 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's a double ender. Plus I have the 7s, although that's not as exciting because it's bottom pair. Oh shoot. I should have probably called that, but I was chit-chatting. Alright, I'm going to call this one. And we'll take a look at what he has. Alright, this is a high card flop. It's a great one to continuation bet or c-bet. So I'm going to stab him because I did limp in. Limp and stab, limp and stab. Every little person does limp and stab. Now we've got a pair of 8s. That's not bad. And he bets big again. This is why it's not always great to lead out huge, because then you have somebody short stack do that and just eat their chips in at you. And I got an 8 here, so that's pretty sweet. So the friendo has to give me a bunch of chips. And here we are again. Still playing heads up. Pretty even Stevens. Oh, now he's mad. That's all right. He can stay mad. Okay. Let's go. All right. We got a king 9 offsuit. And now our stacks are what we'd consider deep again. This one I'm going to limp in again, mostly to tick him off because that's what I've been doing a lot of. But I would have called an ISO if he had raised me by 3. Okay, now we have this draw. King, queen, jack, 9. And so we throw out a stab. He's going to raise me, but it's tiny. It's a weak sauce raise. I have to call 1 into 5. It's like 20%, right? So it's worth a call with almost any 2 cards. Now he's going to hit me with 3. Now, even though I have a double ender, so we've got 3 to get 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Got about third pot. So it's kind of borderline here. I'm going to... See, I was chit-chatting and let it go. I probably might have called that, though. This hand sucks a lot, so I don't even want to call it 1 big blind more. Okay, here we go. With a 10 and an 8, I'm going to limp in, but I would call if he decides to raise me by 3. He does a weak sauce raise, just 2, so I'm happy. Yeah, the clock is quick on Poker Stars. That's the big deal. Such a low board. What a big thing. It's nuts. I'm not going to call with just 2 overs. Hey, jacks. It's a good hand, but one that you always want to raise. So we're going to do to 3x, right? We want to raise by 3, the big bet. And this is a low flop. Since I'm the aggressor, since I raised it, I'm going to go ahead and bet this flop. And he shoves on me, which is pretty tough because we got the straight draw, or maybe completed straight. But since I have overs, I got a call. And look, he's there with his 4. Brilliant. Bless him. Bless his heart for that decision. And now we're going to limp in another one. And he might get mad and jam, but it's okay. Another kind of low. Look, he's jamming. This is a bad move. Like, even if you had a 9, you'd get a lot more value out of somebody if you bet smaller, right? Because this makes my decision super easy. I just fold. If he had bet something tiny, I might have been like, well, okay, let's see the turn, right? But he made my decision super simple. You don't want to make your opponent's life simple. Look, he's super freaking out. It's okay, bro. Relax. And so here we are with another nice limp call ISO kind of hand. And we get a paired board. These are really great to bluff because it's unlikely that somebody has one of the 2 cards that you see. He's going to raise me though, which, you know, you can't just call somebody just because you don't believe them. We all don't believe him. Significant doesn't have anything, but it's also unlikely that I'm going to get something cool, so I'm going to fold. It's never a good reason to call just because I don't believe you. You have to have more reasons. He's raising big. I do have some suited cards though, so I'm going to call this one. And check. He's got initiative. He's got the aggression stick. He left it in the middle of the table though now, but I'm out of position, which means I'm still kind of at a disadvantage information-wise. So I'm going to check again, and it's okay if he bets and I fold. Now we're at the river. We do have 8s that we hit, which is 3rd pair, which means I'm going to do what's called thin value betting really small. So he might call if he has a 3 or 2. He chooses to jam on me, so I'm going to go ahead and fold. That would be a really foolish decision if he was a bluff jamming, because then anyone could pick him off if they were betting small to try to get a little bit of money from a value hand. Another paired board, awesome spot to bluff. See if he raises me again. Not this time. That's something to notice too. If your opponent always raises you on paired boards, then it's less and less likely that he actually has something when you see him do it. Limp this guy too. He raises this. It's offsuit. I'm not going to call. If this was suited, I would. Because being suited adds like 2.3% equity or value to your hand. This one I will call because it's just a min raise. Yeah, what a terrible flop. It's a low one. Remember, if I was in the button, see, this is silly. If I was on the button, I wouldn't have necessarily even c-bet this. This guy jammed, which I believe he's probably doing that with just like an ace high. You know, it's not a board that needs jamming because it's very unlikely that somebody will call you with worse. I'm going to min raise this one. And he jams again, which I can call because I've got a good pair. He happened to have an ace this time, so he's not as nuts as I was suspecting. But it still didn't work out for him because remember, pairs, even a lower pair, you know, still great equity. He's going to jam on me. Again, you have to be careful here. This is where a lot of tournament players will study push-fold charts. And this is, if I was using a push-fold chart, this would not be good enough. Yeah, it is pretty sweet. This one, though, this one I can jam. I know it's not exactly connected, but what it means when you're playing these low cards is that these cards are still live because they're more likely to call a jam with an ace, right? So that means that the 10 and the 7 were still in the deck. And so that's good news for me. Okay, let's do another. Let's go. His check. Thank you. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions as we go along, ladies who are watching. I'm going to try and talk about everything, but, you know, sometimes I run out of time and accidentally fold a hand. So, all right, we are deep, meaning that I have 25 big blinds, so I'm going to min raise this. I wouldn't min raise it if I had less than 20 though. And he calls. I'm on the button. They already check faster than the naked eye, so I'm going to go ahead and stab this because it's very likely that I could have an ace. And they fold. All right, here we go. We got this one. Hopefully we'll be able to just check into this hand. Can we check in? No, they're going to raise 2.5, which is a little bigger than I would in this situation, but since we're still really deep, I'm going to call it. Mono flop. They check to me. I could bet this, and in that way, it's kind of like it turns into go fish. Do you have a club? Oh, they have a club. If they folded, I'd say go fish. I didn't have to pay too much for that, though. Betting on the flop is a great way to see where you are in a hand, because that's when the betting round is cheapest for you. This one, again, remember, I don't have to put in money on the button, so I'm only going to pay with hands that I like, and I didn't like that one. Here we go on the big blind again. This person min raised, which is, I think, the amount that they were using before. I'm going to call because I just have to call one. And we see ace, 4, queen. I don't have initiative though because I just called. So I'm going to check and see what he does. And I might have to fold if he bets. And he does. Another sort of 2 big blind bet, but this time we're going to fold. This hand is terrible. Goodbye, terrible hand. Goodbye. All right. Also not great. If this was a cash game and we were playing with 100 big blind stacks, I might consider leading out with that from the button, but not in these spins. These spins have very wide ranges in the blinds and tighter, meaning smaller ranges in the button, and that means fewer hands that you play. When you say tighter, that means fewer. You say looser or wider, that means more. This one I'm going to call because I just have to call one big blind. Nothing good, not hitting some of these flops. It's all right. The thing with poker is sometimes you just don't hit things for a long while. See, this is a bluffing spot. It's 3 of a kind 4s, but I'm just going to show you. I'm going to bet big because I want him to fold. But he chooses not to. He chooses to jam, so I will fold. Are these spin and go the best way to build a bankroll? I mean, the best way to build a bankroll is to find a game that you like for whatever reason and work on that game. Find a game that you can win at and then just play a whole heck of a lot of that game. So for me, the first games that I learned how to win were spin and goes. So that's when I started grinding, as they say, playing a lot of. I'm trying to learn more how to play cash games. And so that's a very different strategy. And so I'm still working on learning how to be a great player at that. I do think that cash games are also an excellent way to build a bankroll. I'm gonna call this, I think. Oh no, I ran face first into aces. So yeah, with spin and goes, it can be a good way to build a bankroll because to play 25-cent spin and goes, you only have to have 25 bucks to get started. And that's pretty cool because for cash games, you want to have a bigger bankroll. And so that can be kind of cost prohibitive to some of us ladies who are either poor or cheapskates like me. But yeah, so it's nice because you want to have maybe like 100 buy-ins, and if you play 25-cent stakes, then all you need is 25 bucks. It's not too bad. You don't like cash games, much prefer tournaments. I hear you. I actually don't like, just for personal like flavor reasons. I don't like MTTs or multi-table tournaments because often those tournaments are really long and I get like sleepy and want to go to bed and the tournament's still going and I have to stay awake. So I prefer cash games because you can leave whenever you want and come back whenever you want. You can stay if the game is really good and there's lots of fish at your table, or you can leave if people are being mean or are just really good. And so yeah, I prefer cash games and these spin and goes because these spin and goes take like 15 minutes to play. So that's pretty cool. This is a nice hand to go all in with, especially if you're out of position. This person just folded though. I gotta walk. It's cool. Anyway, what I was saying earlier, see this person's a fish. They're limping from the button. That's a bad idea. But I'm still not going to play them from the small blind with this hand. Anyway, yeah, just find a game that you can beat and play the heck out of that one. And the rest of it's all just personal preference. Like some people like PLO because it has 4 whole cards. Some people love those multi-table tournaments because you can haul home a bigger prize and get some fame and fortune. But that's just not my style. I'm kind of more like play whenever I want, quit whenever I want kind of person. Alright, this hand is terrible, so I can't play it even versus one person. This one's not so bad though. We'll min raise it. Min raising is something that we do a lot in these spin and goes, but if I was playing a cash game, I would definitely open for more. And I could very well have an ace, so I will go ahead and stab. You'll notice that every time, almost, I'm betting a third pot on the flop. And that's because I can see lots and lots, I can bet more and more hands that way on the flop. If I bet like a half pot every single time, it would be not as cheap. And it would be harder to bet fold, you know? This person, remember our odds here. We got about 33% we need to call with this queen. So we don't have it because they ruined our odds by betting really big. That was smart of them if they had like an ace or something and they didn't want somebody to call it down with the flush draw. So here we are, not good enough to call from the small blind. Remember, small blind, pretty much the worst place to play in. So you really want a hand that's worth it. There we go. This hand is usually pretty good. I'm pretty short here now, but I'm still going to min raise it. Once we get shorter, my range gets tighter, which means I play smaller hands, but I get more aggressive with that range, so I'm more likely to shove all in. That was one of those paired boards that it's great to stab because people are unlikely to have things. Alrighty, here we go. We'll check into this one. Yay! See the hand for free. Again, I'm gonna stab this. It does have like a high card, and so we fold. All right, they limp in again. Terrible idea from the button. Means they're a fish. This one I'm actually gonna call because they're close enough together that they could form a straight. Nothing here on this flop though, so I will be too happy to fold. Hey, look, they all checked through though. Doesn't mean I'm going to come out swinging from the small blind just yet though. But it does mean, maybe an opportunity. See, this is maybe an opportunity to bluff. But look at this 4 straight on the board. Probably not the best place to bluff. I'm going to choose not to this time, but it's definitely an opportunity. But since there's 4 to a straight on the board and the river completed that 4 to a straight, it's just not the best bluffy spot. If the river had come just some random high card, you know, like an ace or a king, then I would have done it because, you know, it was a limped pot. Everybody was not too thrilled with their hand, so it's unlikely they started out with an ace. Now we're drawing to this hand, so I am going to stab out. I'm going to stab out bigger because it is a draw, and I'm hoping to get some folds, just in case I don't hit on the river. And we got to the river. Unfortunately, the river paired the board. This is also like a terrible bluffing spot, because if they were calling with just a 2, maybe they didn't want to bet their 2, and then on the turn they called because they had a pair, and then the river pairs the board. It's just not a great spot, unfortunately. I'll show you a good spot. We'll get to a good spot at some point. We will. I do bluff a lot. We just haven't seen like a whole heck of a lot of good spots. All right, this person's going to min raise. I have a pretty short stack, but it's still not short enough for me to want to jam with the ace deuce, because if they're min raising, they could easily have a better ace, you know, like even an ace 5. And that's what we call dominated when we're in poker. The ace would be dominated. This one, though, I can shove. Again, this is something that you learn from push-fold charts with people who have, like, you know, learned from math and stuff. We can check into this one. Yay, we don't have to put any more in. Got a paired board, but I'm still not going to come swinging from the small blind. This is not quite a straight draw because there's 2 cards that I'm missing. So I'm not going to come and go for this one. And now it's a 4 flush board. Again, terrible for bluffing against 2 people. I might consider it if it was just 1 person. This one I'm going to jam from the small blind, which means I'm going to all in, because it's a very good hand, but it's awkward to play from the small blind. This one, also good, because we're getting short with our stack, and that means my range, remember, it gets smaller, but angrier. So I'm going to go the aggressive maximum pressure route and go all in. Okay, we're blind versus blind here. What's he gonna do? He's gonna limp at me. He's at 9 big blinds effective. I'm just gonna check into this. Let's see what it's like. I'm not real thrilled about this one, and I don't really want to bet it because there's no good high cards. Now I picked up the flush draw, so I will bet that. We like to bet bigger when we're semi-bluffing, which means I went for a 3/4 pot size bet. In cash games, you bet even bigger. Sometimes you even overbet pots, which means that you bet more than what's in the pot. But here in Spin and Goes, you almost never overbet pots. Not good enough for me to play. Gotta be more and more conservative with the hands I play as my stack size gets smaller. Everyone's stack sizes are getting smaller, though, because the blinds go up every 3 minutes. If you look up in this corner, it tells you there's 1 minute until the blinds go up. This person limps, so they're not super crazy about their hand here. I think I'm going to shove from the small blind and go all in, because, again, it's hard to play from the small blind. I got some free blinds, and now here we are on the button. The effective stack, meaning the most stack I can get if I was to do something crazy right now, is 14. So I will shove this. Ooh, I got called. Uh-oh. See what it is. Oh, I've still got better hand here. Yay, I win it. So now we just got to squish the other guy. All right, we can call that with our 9-6, or rather check. Hey, look, we got 3 of a kind, but I don't want to bet because I don't want to scare him off, right? Because he's really unlikely to have a 9. There's only 1 more left in the deck. So unless he had a queen, he would easily fold. So since it's rainbow, I'm not scared of any draws. I'm just going to call this. I'm just going to call. And I have a heart in my hand, too, which means it's less likely that he's going to have a big flush at the end. So I'm thinking of just checking again, because this is a scare card, and if I bet here, he might just fold. And yeah, we want him to just all in with the rest of it. And then we can say bye-bye, friend. He did have the queen, so I probably could have gone crazy on the flop, but I didn't. And that's fine. Because a lot of the time he won't have that queen. Every hand that you play, thank you. Every hand that you play, it's less about like, what does he exactly have this exact time? And it's more about, what does he have if we were to play this exact same hand 100 times or 1,000 times? In that case, he's not always likely to have a queen, so you don't want to go bet like gangbusters. I'm going to stab this because we got a high-ish card, 10. That's kind of one of my dividing lines. If it's over 10, I might stab it. This guy's thinking about it, though. He's going to run out his time clock. Think fast, bro. Alright. Here we are in another hand that at this stack depth I'm going to choose to limp at my opponent, and I will fold if he chooses to raise me, which he does. No thanks. But you notice he raised 3x, which is good. I'm not going to play this from the button. I don't have to pay, so I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay for that hand. I would have played it if it was free. I'm drinking sparkling water. I've been on like a major sparkling water kick lately. I think it's just the best poker drink. This one we'll call. We only need to put one more in, and this is a decent hand. So, nothing much going on in this flop for me. I'm willing to fold if they bet. When you have a big stack, sometimes it can be really... Oh yeah, I'm playing that right now. When I have a big stack, sometimes it's tempting to call more. But you actually want to be more conservative with your stack in those marginal situations when you have more chips, and just be more aggressive when you have a value hand, because you're going to have to bet and raise more to get value from your hand, right? Because you got a big stack and you want to get all their chips. All of them, not just a few. This person's betting this super low board and getting raised. Oh, they're calling. All right, who might have the flush, right? Who might have been betting with a flush draw, because it's an awfully low board. People could either have two random overcards or a flush. This person's representing the flush. This person's representing the flush. Let's see what happens. Nobody had the flush. One guy had the king. That guy called with second pair, which is a terrible idea. Don't do that. Yes, the weekend is near. Hooray, weekend. It's coming closer. Alright, I'll limp this guy. We're heads up. Let's go, let's go. We've got top pair, but we have a kicker that's not amazing, so we don't want to go super crazy with it. But at the same time, we want to get some value. I'm just going to choose to stab, though. I could choose to either, like, bet maybe a little bigger. An undercard comes on the turn. I'm going to continuation bet, but I'm not going to bet huge, right? Because it doesn't make sense. It wouldn't tell the right story. Like, why would I be super pumped about a 2? And here we are on the river. So now I don't have top pair anymore. I had a terrible kicker anyway, so I didn't get more aggressive. They're going to bet 5. So I'd have to call 5 to 13. Which is a little over a third. I'd have to win over a third of the time. I'm going to choose not to, because they were really calling along there as if they had something. And I had a terrible kicker. Terrible. Alright, let's go then. This guy is not as bad a player as the other guy. Doesn't necessarily mean he's a great player, though. Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got this draw. I'm willing to call. I could also consider, like, raising from there. In this case, I'm going to choose to lead out with a smallish bet because the turn did pair the board and I did have that draw. Unfortunately, now we have a double paired board. So again, turned into a not great bluff situation because he could easily have trips, full house, things like that. All right, we're going to limp this one in, see what happens. All right, high card board. It's often likely that I'd have a high card when I'm betting out of the button. So we'll go ahead and stab it and see what Patrick here does. Patrick's gonna call along. All right, we have 7, 8, 9. We don't have the 10, but then we have the jack. So it's turning into a situation bluffable, but I have to pay attention to my stack size. So it wouldn't make sense for me to just bet a half or 3/4 and leave myself with like 2 big blinds behind. So it's better to put maximum pressure on. Okay, we got this king 7. We'll just call along. And we got third pair. So we'll check and see how much he bets. If he bets small, I might call along. He did. He bet just a stab, so I'll call along and give her another check. I'm willing to fold, though, because now it's fourth pair, and he's increased his bet size. So no thanks. No thanks. We'll get it. All right, now we're down to a little under 6 big blinds. So this is another one of those kind of, you have to know what's worth what to shove. He had a better hand starting out. Oh, but see, it turned blue because I did what we call sucking out on him, which means that my worst hand, just raw equity or value-wise, ended up hitting a better card. So there's a big luck component there still. All right, we got this paired board here. Often when I'm under 10 big blinds, I stab out of position when I see a paired board. This guy calls, which is good to know because it means that it doesn't work on him really well, but I did pick up this draw. So I'm going to bet. I'm betting smaller than I would normally, though, because I want to put max pressure on the river if I end up having to bluff it. So I'm just going to bet 3 because I want to be able to bet something significant on the river. Oof. Dang, the double paired boards. Why does this happen? Well, it's just still not a great place for me to bluff. So I'm just going to resist. Gonna resist the urge. Because these double paired boards are hard to bluff because people with just an ace high will call because they think that we're just going to split a pot or something. Okay, so we got queen 5 off. We got to jam this when we're so short. Tiny stacks. And he calls with just random suited stuff, which is nice. Oh, we split the pot. 50-50. And I'm going to jam on him with this, especially because he only bet 1 big blind. And here we are again, this time with queen 6. This one's kind of borderline. I'm going to choose to limp it because I'm over 6. Spin and go is you get to play with tiny stacks. If people were playing with these in like a multi-table tournament, they would be either all in or fold every hand by now. But spin and go games are all about these tiny, tiny stack maneuvers. Under 5 big blinds, though, it's pretty much push fold. Thanks, Jimbo. All right, they bet what's considered pretty big to me now. I would never call. I have a choice of either to jam into him or to fold. I'm going to go ahead and jam into him because I would probably call with, or rather, call if he went all in, even with like 8 big blinds. He had a worse hand, but he was the one who sucked out on me this time. That's fine. It's just the way it goes. All right. We got about 6 minutes left. Might be time for another game. We'll see how it goes. Oh yeah, and I've got my Nightbot set up to tell you about Poker Power's social networking initiatives. So you can find them on